So, yeah, totally up to you. Otherwise, that's, they can see that, or I can point it just to that.
I love the Facebook event you created.
If you already have it on yours, I'd say just run it this way.
Okay.
Make it less-
I like this a little better. Where? So probably 5 years ago, I cold called this guy named Joel Castiglione. He was looking for a new house, and I kept in touch with him often. And then probably after COVID, I stopped being in touch with him.
And Jerry got your listing?
There's his name right there, coming soon. So there's a minimum of a $15,000 lesson to continue to stay in touch with the people that are interested. I don't know about you guys, but $15,000 is still an awful lot of money. All right, so I think this will be good. I'm not sure if I think people are just automatically entered in that. All right, so I think this is the first class that we're doing on Thursdays. So every Thursday at this time, we're going to have a different class. So each month, we'll run the same 4 classes so that each month you get something within lead generation, listing presentations, buyer consultations, and CMAs. So today is a CMA. So next week, I think, is buyers, right? And then the following week is, so I don't know, something else.
The 26th is buyers, 25th or 26th is buyers. So next week is listing.
Yeah, okay, so next week's listing presentation. So that's something ALC decided to do to keep our training calendar consistent, and then also keep it with something that we all want, right? So I mean, who doesn't want to see Kirsten's listing presentation? I want to see it, right? If you want to feel good about yourself, go to that class. Just kidding.
So serious.
No, so hopefully it's a good value add to everybody. And then also, hopefully, y'all get to the point, if you want to, come up here and teach the class, because the best way to learn something is to teach other people how to do it. So don't be intimidated by standing up here and teaching people. And at the same time, don't ever feel like you're at a point where you should stop learning, because once you get to that point. So,
Full room, Belle.
all right, I like it. So today is a CMA. Now, I am still part of LCAR, and I'm also a secondary member with GMAR. And I did that so that I can get to know Flex while keeping my thing with RealComp. And then after that first free quarter, I'm going to decide which one I'm going to go with. Unfortunately, for anybody in this room that's only on Flex right now, I've only spent about 15 minutes in Flex. So I'm going to use RealComp today. But the buttons I push will be different, but the way you do the CMA is going to be the same, no matter which. You could use Zillow, okay?
They still have RPR on Flex. Like
Yeah,
your
might be
easy
our-
cloud or?
No, nope, no.
No, oh, cool.
I'm gonna do an old fashioned real estate agent market analysis by looking at comparables and using my head instead of the computer to tell me what the house is worth. Okay? I'm gonna do it differently than most people probably will. And the reason why I do it this way is so that when I'm standing in front of somebody or sitting across the table from them, it's gonna be the way that I present it. So I will always do one of two ways. 90 or 75% of the time, the way that I'm going to do it is I'm looking at your competition. So if Scott's my seller, when I'm sitting down in front of them and say, all right, Scott, so this is going to be a little bit different than what you probably used to or have done in the past. But as you know, when you enter your house onto the market, you're entering your house into a competition. And our goal is to get people to choose your house versus the competition. Does that make sense? Of course it does. So you asked me, how do we do that? Well, we're gonna look at what's on the market. So if we take our seller hats off and put our buyer hats on, I wanna look at what people looking at your house, I wanna know what they're looking at also. Because that's how they're gonna decide to buy your house, and that's how they're gonna decide the value of your house, is by comparing it to what else is available. And then when I show them, I will show them two houses at a time and say, I want you to look through these two homes and I want you to choose one of them that you would buy as a buyer and tell me why. And they're gonna be homes that are similar and in the same houses that you would be looking at if you were a buyer in that market. And then I'm gonna have them choose between the two and tell me why. The tell me why is the most important part. And then I'm gonna do that with 3 sets of 2, so that I end with 3 final houses that they've chosen. And then I take the public record of their home and I say, okay, now take your buyer hat off, or like, actually keep your buyer hat on. I'm gonna add one more into the mix and it's your house. And where would you price your house so that you would buy it versus the competition? So I have the seller choose their list price. Now, the way that I choose the comparables and how I put them in front of them, yes, that's strategic. And do they always pick the price that I want to list at? Yes, they always do. Not by me telling them, but because of the conversation that we've had at the table and how I've set up them choosing what they choose. Even by the way of where I set that public record. I'll set it all the way to the end to the low, all the way into the right, or somewhere in the middle, wherever I want that price to be is where I'm gonna set that piece of paper, and then I'm gonna say, now you choose. So I've subconsciously kind of told them already where it goes. And that range can be anywhere between $75,000 and $25,000 between the 3 that they choose. It just depends on the price point. So if it's like a $250,000 house, that gap's gonna be a lot smaller. Or if it was like a $700,000 house, that gap's probably gonna be a lot larger. So try and think like stick within 10%.
So with your 3 pairs, are you trying to do like the most similar, like 2, 2, and 2?
No. So when I do those, I want those prices to be pretty far off of each other so that they can, at the end of the day, I want them to choose homes that are more updated and more of what's wanted for a better price than the other house. Okay? So, and I'll add pendings in there too. So I'll pretend like a pending is active. And I'll highlight the fact that it's sold in 6 days, but yet this one that's priced higher with the same features and benefits has been on the market for 4 weeks. And I'll point those things out. So that's how I get them to where I want them to be, is because I'm pointing those types of things out. And I'll say, when we go looking at houses and you're going to ask me, how long has this house been on the market? And I'm gonna tell you, and then I'm gonna ask you, why does that matter?
Right.
And they're gonna say, well, because I figure if it's been on the market for 2 months, they will probably take less, right? Like, exactly, and what do we not wanna do? Be on the market for a long time. Let's look at the homes that have been on the market for a long time. And they're gonna say those same things, so I'm setting them up to compete with themselves before we even look at anything. So, Mike, I do have some bad news.
Yeah.
You sent me a house that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was this house.
Yeah.
Now, this is in Birmingham. I couldn't drive to Birmingham if you put me in a car and said, go to Birmingham. So I have no idea as to the market in Birmingham. If I had a listing in Birmingham, I probably wouldn't take it, and if I did take it, I would lean heavily on probably Erin, because she knows that area much better than I do. I don't know if the other side of fill in the blank main road in Birmingham means whatever to somebody. I don't know that. So for me to do a CMA in Birmingham right now would be a disservice to everybody.
Still analyze the numbers though.
I could, but I don't know if it's because it's on the other side of Woodward.
East or west, yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I grew up in Howell. I very rarely leave Livingston County. So I'm gonna do a Livingston County market analysis, if that's all right, because that's what I know, okay? And a lot of what we do is feel, right? We know our markets. We should know our markets. Every single day I look at the Livingston County market. I know exactly what's for sale. I know exactly what's sold. I know exactly how long things have been on the market. I'm gonna be my best in the plate in the area that I know. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm selfishly gonna choose a house that I sold in 2019 because it's been almost 5 years now, and they're a growing family, and guess what they're probably gonna wanna do pretty soon? Probably gonna wanna move. So y'all should be doing this for your past clients anyways. We do an annual equity analysis on their home, so that's what I'm gonna do today for them, and when I'm done here, I'm gonna send it to them. So, sorry about being selfish, but I have a lofty goal I wanna sell this year. So,
Don't reach out.
so don't reach out to these
Got it,
people.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So this is the house. It's in Howell. Again, I grew up in Howell. I would say probably 70% of everything that I've sold is in Howell. So I know the market super well. So when I pull up the subject, the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up a past sale. Hopefully there is one. Hopefully I sold it to them, which I did in this case. When I pull it up, I'm gonna look through the pictures and I'm gonna call them. And their names are Megan and Ryan. I'm gonna call them up, say, hey, Megan, it's Bill. I look forward to our appointment tomorrow. And I just wanna make sure 2 o'clock still works. It does, great. Fantastic. Before I head out there, I just wanna make sure I'm best prepared for our appointment. I'm looking through some of the old pictures from you, when you bought it back in 2019. And I'm just curious, Megan, what have you done to the house since you bought it? And I literally have these pictures pulled up from when they bought it. And she's gonna tell me, well, Bill, I'm glad you asked. We replaced the water heater. We painted the living room. We painted the trim white, right? Most of those things don't mean anything, right? A new water heater and a painted room isn't gonna make your house worth any more or any less. But I want them to tell me all those things because now they feel important and special and they feel good about what they've done. What I'm listening for is we replaced all the light fixtures. We did paint all the oak white. We redid the kitchen. We finished the basement. We redid our bathroom. We added a pool. We did that in the backyard. Things that are gonna make the house worth more. I wanna know those things. Did you replace the roof? And I'm looking through all these pictures just to remind myself, and especially if I didn't sell it, I'm looking through these pictures to see what it was when they bought it and what they've done to it. because those things matter, right? So let's say these people haven't done anything except for redo the lights. They painted the house and they replaced the furnace, which I know they've done all of those things. So they haven't done a complete upgrade to the home, but it might look a little bit better when we go to sell it. So as I'm looking through that, I'm gonna keep this listing open, their past listing. And I'm gonna just kind of remind myself some things here. So we have 1 acre, 3-car garage, 3 beds, 2.5 baths. Do I really care if those bedrooms or bathrooms are in the basement? No, I do not. If it was like 2 bedrooms, I might care, but I'm gonna market it as 3 and 2.1, whether they're in the basement or not, like everybody else in this room probably. Square footage, that's super important, obviously. And then some other things that we can pay attention to are the basement, is it walkout, is it daylight? This one is neither. And then I'm kind of curious also as to what the price per square foot was when it sold. Because I look at the market every single day, I know what the price per square foot in this market is today. Does anybody know what the price per square foot for a 2,300 square foot colonial home would sell for in Howell? Anybody have a guess?
200?
Yeah, probably somewhere between like 190 and 210, I would say. So in my head, I've already kind of have a barometer of where this house should be priced, right? So when I'm looking at comparables, I kind of know what I should be looking for. So I'm gonna keep this open. And just like in, actually, I would assume like in Flex, but I would keep this open, but to start a new search, I'm gonna right click so I can open up a new search in a new tab so that I can have my search open and this previous listing open at the same time. That's super helpful when you like have a search going and you have a bunch of cool shit pulled up and you want to like remember what those are. Just open up a new search in a new tab and you can always toggle back and forth.
Just right click on detail, is that what you're right?
Right. You can do this for any website. Just right click, or for a Mac, use 2 fingers and click, and then open link in new tab.
So before, Realcom would shut you out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't allow that, like you can't go and make changes, it would close you out because you're only allowed to get out. with one
Oh,
person.
I've been doing this for as long as I can remember.
Oh,
It'll
really?
let you
Yeah.
do that open window, you just, like, you couldn't use that old one to research.
Right.
It has to stay,
Yeah.
It's that's static.
So when you 2 clicks on Mac, what option is that?
Open new tab,
Open link in new tab.
top one.
Yeah, or if you scroll
to the top, it'll say tab.
So with 2 fingers.
Yep.
Just tap that. Does it show you that? On something, like you have to click where a link would be. Got it?
Thanks.
Cool. Also, what I did before you all got here is I took this listing, I clicked it and I put it in a cart. I think Flex has cart or cart equivalents as well, right?
I do believe so. That's what you needed.
And then I'd name a few and I name them AAA because that'll put them at the top. Which, fun fact, that's why companies are called like AAA mufflers, because they were first in the phone book. So we're in Howell Schools, 1 acre, 2,300 square feet house, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. First thing that I'm gonna do is pull up everything that's active or pending. This is pretty close to the south school district line to Pinckney, because Schaefer Road is the school district line. But it's far enough in Howell, and I know there's enough comparables of this subdivision home in Howell that I'm gonna find enough in Howell schools, so that's where I'm gonna stick.
But if it was like right on the border,
If it was right on the border, it would depend on which border and where on that border. So like over, like in this area, within a mile, you can be in 4 different school districts. At that point, I would just zoom, I would do a radius search up to like 4 miles. And then I might adjust compared on the school districts.
Yeah.
Brighton is switching to not school of choice for 4th grade and under, elementary and under, right? Is that it?
Mhm.
I'll be super curious to see how that affects home values. I would
And I'm
imagine it
curious
makes
also
homes
what
more
that'll do
valuable.
for, if you're new into the district too. You know, like if somebody's not, there's a
Yeah,
difference if they're already in one elementary. So I don't know, it
Maybe-
should be interesting to see.
We started off at school of choice, in Brighton. And when there's a bunch of us that were in one elementary school, and when that elementary got too full, they moved the kids out of that elementary and into one that was less full for school of choice. And it didn't matter if you'd been there for 2 years or 3 years or whatever.
Morning.
yeah, they're just getting full from what I understand,
Yeah.
so that's the only thing they can do.
Mhm.
So I would imagine Brighton school homes will increase their lead on being the most valuable in the county.
Mhm.
And I can safely say that in this room. I think we can safely say that anywhere. So I want to go back to this house and I just want to make sure where the master bedroom is. And it's upstairs. So I do not want to compare anything with a first floor master because that matters a ton. And the way that I do that is I go down and again, I'm sorry if you're only on flex now, but I would assume they still have this here too, but you would do add remove to add additional fields. And do room search. And then that's going to show up at the bottom or wherever it shows up on flex. And I'm going to pick primary bedroom and on the 2nd floor. So that's only going to show me not first floor masters. Okay. So we're at 28, which is still kind of a lot for what I want to be looking at. So I'll put in residential, see if that does anything. It took away 2. And then I will put in 3+ bedrooms and 2+ full bathrooms. I know it's 2.5, but the two bathtubs make more of a difference than that 3rd toilet. So we're still at 25, so now I'll add in my square footage. And this is kind of where becoming a real estate agent matters versus just telling the computer to find comparables for me, is because a 2,300 square foot house is a 2,300 square foot house, right? It probably, if with the 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, you walk in, it's probably stairs that gotta go upstairs. There's a half bath right around that stairs that go downstairs. There's a living room, probably a family room, and a kitchen that goes into one of those rooms with a nook, all on the 1st floor, right? We've all know it and like it. You're not gonna get that in an 1,800 square foot house because you're not gonna get that family room and the living room. And in a 3,000 square foot house, it might be that, but they're just gonna be bigger rooms.
Yeah.
Right? Or it might have an office. So I know that my 2,300 square foot house is gonna compare well to something that's 2,000 square feet to probably 2,700 square feet. Nothing more, nothing less. And a computer is not gonna do that. So that's why I like to do it this way. It's not a percentage up or down. It's just me as a real estate agent knowing what I should know. So that gets me down to 12, which is perfect. So we have, this is also perfect. We have like half active and half pending. So as I look through these, and remember, I haven't put in acreage yet. So I'm gonna kind of peek through some of these. So this one on Washington, downtown, built in 1800s, probably not a good comparable. But I'm also looking at what does the house look like? This one on Cobblestone, I know those are a little bit bigger lots over there. And Cobblestone is one of those areas where it's like you could hit a 3 wood and hit 3 different school districts. But that would be a good comparable because it has a 3-car garage and it looks super similar. Same thing with this one on Spring Trace, it's in that same area. Gully, 1 acre, similar square footage. It's got one extra bedroom, so this would be a good comparable also, even though it's on a dirt road. This one's lakefront, so that's not a good comparable. Radiant, 1 acre, 3-car garage. It's much newer, which I'll pull and I'll tell you why later. This one is, has not been built yet. And then Wooded Valley, that's a pretty good comparable also. And then this one isn't built. So what I'll do to get rid of some of those other things, which I probably should have done already, is get rid of anything that's new construction. And then also get rid of anything that's on a lake. So I'll take out canal front and lakefront. Canal front is because of all the stuff in Pinckney. So it moves me from 12 to 8, so it gets rid of the things I don't want, and that leaves me with pretty much all the other stuff that's perfect, right? So from here, well, except for this one, I'll get rid of that one too. So I'll do actually 1950 to 2020. So it leaves me with 7. And when I'm doing the pick one of the 2 and move on, that's actually perfect because I only need 6 to do that. If I had less than 6, I might pull in some solds to show people, but I don't really care about what sold. I really don't, because this is what the competition is. I'm not even gonna look at the solds until I'm done doing this to kind of check my math. So as I'm pulling these comparables, I'm also kind of poking through some of the pictures. So Wooded Valley, I think this one's off of Byron Road, just north of 59, right? And I'm just kind of poking through it. How does this compare to mine? And I would say right now, it's probably a pretty doggone good comparable. There's really nothing spectacular about this house, and it doesn't look old either. I mean, it's gonna, if my people painted like they said they did, and they did the lights like they said they did, the pictures are gonna be super comparable to this house. It's smaller, it has 1 extra bedroom and less acreage. And this one is, where is this, pending for 350. So 58 days on market. So anything that I pull that's pending, I'm gonna call that agent and ask them, hey, I'm doing a market analysis. Your home is one of the comparables. Do you mind telling me what you sold your house for?
I can't tell you that.
And if they have anything other than Remax on their sign, they'll tell you. If they have Remax on their sign, good luck. Unless it's Renee. Renee will tell you she's cool. So I'm gonna do that same thing with all these different homes. I'm gonna just poke through the pictures and compare it to mine. Like I was a buyer. We've all shown houses. We all know what buyers say as they walk through, that we all know what they point out as good things and bad things. Like this one, for example, because I've been in this house a few times, this is the garage door, which is probably why this home hasn't sold yet. Other than that, the home and the property is fantastic, but this being the garage is, if you have kids, it's awful. That would just be awful. And which is why I'm sure it hasn't sold yet. This one, that's probably looks the most similar on the outside. This is why you hire Bill Tate for pictures also. But I would say it's pretty similar on the inside as well. Mine's probably a little bit nicer just because this one just kind of looks super lived in, right? So I'm taking all these, and at the end of the day, what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna take my actives, which there's 4 of, which is great. And they're priced between $480 and $424. So I'm probably gonna take this one on Cobblestone and this one on Gully. And I'm gonna have you compare those 2 and tell me which one you would buy and why. So that difference there in price is 50 grand. And somebody might say, between the 2, I'll probably choose this one on Gully because it's on an acre. It has more square, well, it has same square footage. The updates are a little bit nicer on that
Only
one, and I'm gonna
two-car
say, yeah. Yeah, the other one has a two, well, this one, it does have two, you're right. Whichever one they choose, I'm gonna let them roll with it, right? And then I'm gonna take the next two, Spring Trace and Radiant, and I'm gonna say, which one would you choose to buy and why? And this one's 2,368 square feet, this one's 2,200, so square feet, super similar. Bedrooms, bathrooms are identical. This one's on an acre, this one's on an acre, super comparable, right? And this one, they're both active. 80 days on market, 2 days on market. And so they're gonna say, I'm gonna choose to buy Radiant because it's way newer. I have to do way less work to it. It looks better. And for that $30,000, $25,000, that's a no-brainer to buy that house versus this one on Spring Trace.
80 days on market.
Yeah, I don't know where is this? Is this off of PV Road? Radiant?
Click the map.
Let's see. Is that an Ellen Edwin house?
Looks like it.
So, is this Allen Road? Yeah, okay, so yeah, so that whole sub in there are all Allen Edwin. You can think of what you want with them, but this one looks pretty, right? So they're gonna choose this house 10 out of 10 times over the other one. So between these two, they're probably gonna choose Gully and Radiant. Radiant, probably out of all the active ones, is probably the best deal because it gives you an acre. It's a brand new house. Well, it's not brand new, it's 5 years old. But you're not gonna have to do anything. The one in Radiant's gonna sell before any of those other three. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Totally. So I'm gonna use that against them in the future. So now I'm gonna do my pendings and I'm gonna point out that they're pendings. I'm gonna say, now these are pendings, which means they're already under contract. But this gives us the best idea as to where the market is today. And I'm gonna write in red ink on there what they are under contract for. So this one on Wooded Valley, 58 days on market. It's probably a little bit less, probably not too far off because the last 58 days were what? November and December. And when it went pending 4 days ago with way lower interest rates than it was 2 months ago. I would imagine they probably got pretty close to that 350 number. So I'll take these three. And this one's kind of an outlier compared to all the other ones because it's the cheapest. This one at 350 here. So I'm probably not going to use that one at all, which leaves me with two left, which is what I want. And I'll take these two, the one on Crowfoot and the one on Lily Drive, and I will compare these.
Even though that one's on 10 acres.
Even though it's on 10 acres, yeah. Because my other one's on 1 acre. And you can adjust for that. And at the end of the day, I think people want acreage so they can pee outside without anybody seeing you. So the one in the sub, you probably can't do that, but a lot of houses with 1 acre, you can. This house, fun fact, used to be Dominic Fagnetti's house. Yeah, totally.
My kid got freaking kicked out of school over peeing in the playground.
Country out.
True story.
Our kids would get along great.
They are not allowed to eat. All right. Day only, double day only.
So this one I like, even though it's on 10 acres, because I don't want them to choose something higher than this price, because I know this one's a better deal already. I know this one will sell before them, just for lots of reasons that we all know. And this one will be good to show because it is 10 acres and it is not updated at all. It's very 1978 still in the home. So that proves my point even more that it's not worth that. So I'll choose between these two. I'll have them choose which one they like better and why. And they'll probably end up saying this one on 10 acres because it's on 10 acres. And I can fix the house for a lot less than I can add 10 acres to this house. Because you
Right.
can't add 10 acres to a house. So they'll probably end up choosing this house also. So now that we have the three houses, I'm assuming they're gonna choose, and I'm assuming that because they are, because I'm gonna make them choose them by the words that I use. And we get into, and you,
Where do you wanna be?
Yeah, yeah. it sounds funny, it sounds funny to say, but that's what we're good at, that's what we should be good at.
Yeah.
We're the experts, we should help guide them to their answer. Our job is to advise, guide, and educate our people so that when it comes time to make a decision, it's time they can make a good one.
On the properties that you're pointing them to, do you ever call the agents, like, to get, to see what information they'll give you? before
Totally,
you
yep.
go?
Yep, especially on the pending ones, I'll get that, and the active ones, I'll call and see if I can't get an idea as their activity and things like that. So now that I have these three, we have three different prices, 475, 480, and 490. That's when I would take their old listing, print it off, and set it down in front of them and say, okay, now I want you to choose where, at what price would you buy your house versus the competition? And then let's say,
And in this case, where would you put the piece of paper with their listing in that line?
in this case, I would put it all the way towards the lowest, for sure. Because I would think it's probably less than all of these comparables. And then they would probably agree, and they just essentially have to decide this house versus theirs. And if they say, oh, I think we should be at 485, then I'm gonna say, why do you say that? Well, because we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. And I'm gonna say, okay, but as a buyer with a buyer head on, which one to you perceives as to more value? Because you said this house has this, 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 and this, which is why you chose it. Yours doesn't have this, 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 and this. So why is your house worth more than the one you chose? And then they look at each other and they do one of these numbers and they say, okay, you're right. Well, it's probably gonna be a little bit less than that. What do you think? And that's, at that point, I'm fine with it because I've already got them down to a point where they're saying, cool, we're gonna do less than that. And then I might even say, well, you said that you wanna be wherever by whenever. And how aggressive can we get with this? Knowing that they bought it 5 years ago for under 300, and we're probably going to make them an awful lot of money. So I would probably guide them in the range of 455, 460-ish for it. Now, I said before, I would also want to look at solds, just to kind of check.
Because also, wouldn't you also let them know, like, okay, here's what you're saying is similar to your home, but ultimately it hasn't received an offer.
Correct.
So there's nothing saying that it's right on its price, even though they feel that they're a little bit under there.
Yeah,
They
just
could be
remind
too
them and
high.
point out that
that
it's still
it's still
active.
active, yeah.
And chances are it's not gonna sell at that price
Right.
anyways.
And they've already dropped their price once.
So with that being said, if there was no actives or pending and you only had sold comps, you would basically do that with how long they were on the market and
Yes,
basically if they sold around price point above or below.
and if we go back to what we were talking about earlier, as the price per square foot, we said probably between 190 and 210.
Mhm.
What's 190 times that?
That is hard.
Pretty close to that 455 number, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So that's like in my head, that makes me feel good already. I'm not gonna look at the last year. I only really kind of want to see the last 90 days with that same criteria, which is good. We have 12. And see where they sold. So we have a range between 385 and 550.
There's 445.
So
pray.
if I look at kind of where we want to be around, so here's a 2-car garage, it's smaller, it's on an 1.25 acres, which is good. And this one might be pretty similar too. If this one's sold in November, that was right when interest rates started to come down, which they went under contract in October when interest rates were still at 8%. So this person could afford, that bought this house, could probably afford to buy something in the $500,000 range today, which is nuts to think about, which we need to tell more people about that. Unless you sold them that house, and don't say that.
I knew it.
So here's one at 450. This one's off a sanatorium. And fun fact about this house, I used to sing in this house a lot in high school. Anybody else go to Howell? Do you know the Blades? They lived in this house. So we would go there, and I'm not kidding you, we would just go there and sing.
Like karaoke or practice?
What else were you doing there?
No, like straight up, like, because we're all in choir
Oh, yeah?
together.
Okay, yeah.
So we'd sing like a cappella and stuff.
We need a revision.
How
Do up, let's go. Dominic, we're going to karaoke again, you wanna come?
So this one sold a lot closer to where we are today. It sold at 450, and it's a little bit more acreage. It is kind of out there though, like it's a lot further out than even the one off at D19, even though it's sort of close, but it's also on dirt road. So I would feel pretty good. I might kind of adjust my pricing down even a little bit further, maybe 450 to 460.
This one's older though too, and it's more dated inside.
Yeah.
And right, and the acreage kind of offsets that, so you might be right there at 450.
Yeah.
Really?
And it started at a higher price point, so it got stale.
Yep. So another good way to check your math is to, does Flex have Remind?
I believe.
There's a link for me to get
so.
Remind Docs, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
Remind Docs or like the Remind Public Records?
I think it's just Remind Docs.
I was trying to
And
find the
then-
other yesterday. And I had to
Okay.
I don't remember seeing that.
I know they have RPR. but-
If they have Remind, or if you're on Real Comp still, you can click on this. Go down to where the value is. And kind of see where the different values are that they have. So their estimate is 418. First American's at 467. So that might make me relook at it a little bit. Because if they're seeing a estimate of 418, anything above that I tell them they're gonna be thrilled with. So as I see that, I might go back to what my competition is and my other comparables and just make sure that I'm not overpricing it. But you also, I mean, at the same time, you also have to remember the people that were looking at 450 houses before the holidays. I mean, those people now those people looking at that house now we're looking at 350 2 months ago.
Right.
So this is gonna be way better for them. They're probably willing to pay a little bit more for it. So at the end of the day, looking at what we know, I will probably, I'll probably list it at 450. I'll probably go right in at that number. And there's some thoughts behind going 449.9 and 450. Usually on those thresholds of $25,000 increments. You want to be either right on the middle so that you're catching both ends of people searching up to 450 and starting at 450. But I don't think anybody's stopping their search at 450. They're probably looking between 4 and 5. So going in at 449.9, I'll probably do that just because it looks better. But if it was like 300, I'd probably do 300 and not 299.9. That makes sense. Why?
But aren't you afraid someone who starts their search at 450 is gonna miss it because it's at 449?
No, and I'm not, because most people, 9 out of 10 people will not buy at the price they start their search at, but they'll buy it above the price they end at. So the person that's gonna buy this house is searching for 375 at 450. Not everybody, but most people will buy what they can't afford or struggle to afford. So that's how I do my CMAs. With super low inventory, that can be super tough to do. And do I do the adjustments way of the CMA? Yes, I do. I will do that when I can't do it this way. And who said, Megan, you were saying that with Flex, when you had real comp, it would auto put in your adjustment numbers.
Yeah, my computer had it saved for like that field. You know how like your
Yeah.
numbers, like it'll put your email will pop up if it's a field, you know, like have your email it.
So what I'll say to that, like when I do that, like if I were to do an adjustable with these three.
You can save them in Flex too. I just have to remember all the numbers that I've used.
Subject. So if I were to do comparables with that, what I would do, and this is case by case basis for me also. So what I would use on this house, honestly, versus any other house, it would be a different adjustment for me. Because of one of a few things, price point for one. I'm not gonna price a bedroom, especially not gonna price a bathroom the same in a $250,000 house as I would here or at a $550,000 house or any $150,000 house. They're all gonna be different. And also, when I'm doing it this way, I kind of have an idea as to where we should be with price, even before I started, because of that price per square foot thing. I'm gonna make these adjustments so that it gets to the answer that I wanna be at.
He's gonna manipulate the results.
I'm gonna change the number so it gets to the number to where I want it to be at. So if I have to make this bedroom worth $9,000, now all of a sudden that bedroom is worth $9,000. And to them, they don't know black from brown, right? So all they care about is what do we need to list our house at so that I can make the most amount of money and sell it in the least amount of time. So although that's frustrating and annoying, that wouldn't bother me because they're all gonna be different anyways.
Yeah.
Does anybody else do their CMAs a different way? Or can anybody poke a hole in the way that I do it?
Let me just add, when you give, when I sit down with a client, after I've done all this, I don't pick the price.
No, I
Because I'm
very rarely
confident
do.
it's in my range. Or I wouldn't let them have that flexibility. I might influence them one way or the other, but I let them pick the price and I feel good about it because they think they picked the price.
Yep.
But I show them that range.
He does that too,
Okay.
essentially.
Yeah. With.
So after we agree on a price that we're going to list it at, I make them feel even better about their decision because I say, you know what, I completely agree. And let me show you why I agree. And it's not about what we list your house for. At the end of the day, it's about how much money you take home, right? And they say, yep. So let me show you what I call a net proceeds sheet. And then I pull out my iPad that has numbers on it or Excel. And I say, here's a range. So let's say this said 440, 450, 460 on it. And I say, here's a range where it's sold in one of these three prices. Now let's talk about the different expenses it costs to sell your house. Because literally, seriously, the price that they sell their house for means nothing. to them. It's how much money they make. If we listed it for $1 million, if we sold it for $1 million and they owe $990 on it, did it matter if we sold it for $1 million or not? No, they made $10,000. So that's when I go through this, and this is probably more important than the CMA itself. Because now you get to know a little bit more about their finances and things. And I know a lot of these answers already because I asked them how much they owe. I asked them if they have a second mortgage already. I asked them if they, when they're walking me through the house, do you still owe on your connecting to consumers? I talk about commission again at this point, talk about the title insurance. I talk about the processing fee at this point also, so that doesn't come up at closing and you have to get rid of it. Talk about all of this stuff. If they're in a HOA, like a subdivision, I always tell them it's probably gonna cost you $225 to transfer the ownership with the HOA and for us to get information to make sure you're within good standings. This is when I talk about my home warranty with them. I always put this in initially. I've been on this appointment, so that's why all these are not here anymore. But I talked to them about the home warranty. These people, let's say all of their mechanicals are still old. I'm gonna say, why don't we offer a home warranty up front, especially now that it's winter, so that when people know and see that you have an original furnace that's 20 years old, this is gonna make them feel a lot better and they're not gonna ask for anything because it's old. Where are you gonna fix it if it breaks while they own it? Great opportunity to talk about that. And about all these different things also. And then they get to see, all right, so if we sell it at 640, is that number what you expected? And they always have a number that they expected that they were gonna bring home. And when they say, yeah, we were kind of right around there, that's when you know you did your job perfectly. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun once you get to that point.
Do you give them something in paper?
I say, I'm going to email this to you when I get back. And then, they're always fine with that. And the reason why I don't print it before I go is because if I need to change my mind while I'm there on price, I can. I pretend like I'm putting in my password on my iPad or it's not pulling up or something. And I change the price on it. Like if it's worse or better or whatever, once I get there. I do leave the listing presentation with them. I do leave the comparables with them. And then depending on their time frame and if they're old or not, I'll do the paperwork right there with them.
I love that.
If they're my age,
Savvy.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna make all these changes that I made to the listing form. I'm gonna input them all. I'm gonna send, and then I'm gonna give you a call. I'm gonna send it to you electronically. We're gonna go over it over the phone and they'll sign it. They're like, cool.
And if they don't have email, you're gonna go back.
If they don't have email, I'll sign the paperwork right there and then with them, because I'll have that ready with me. Yeah. I think we're gonna have a lot more listings this year.
I agree. I think so too.
A lot more. And I think that homes are gonna sell for more than they should again. Which is why I would also get in the habit of saying, although I do this every single day, the real estate market has been really wacky for the last few years. And our job is to price the home where we think it's going to appraise at. Anything above and beyond that, we'll worry about once we get there. But my job is to help you determine what your home will appraise at.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I also go a step further as to say, buyers are more educated now than we ever have been with all the third party links and information and all of that. So they know when a seller's being greedy. Our job is to show them the value of your home for them to agree upon. So they're like, that is a great price for that house, because guaranteed they've been watching your house in this neighborhood for a mighty long time. And say, you know what, I wouldn't mind paying over that. I can see that. So you don't become a stale listing.
Yeah. This is a really vague way of doing it. There's very little like math to this. It's a lot of feel.
Yeah.
And until we're in a market that needs more preciseness, I don't think we need to be that precise.
I don't think I can be precise. like, I don't think it's possible.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you, for instance, like how you do it, I feel like is the right way. I usually look at solds first. And I feel like you can't in this market look at solds first, because if you're going back solds within the last 180 days, you know.
Maybe
it-
90
it-
days.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that, the active pendings and solds, but like when I'm there listing, like that's when I walk through the house and that's when I'm taking notes of, I don't do the phone call beforehand and have them go over everything, that's guaranteed. They'll forget about something and all that, so I go room by room and ask what was done here, blah, blah, taking notes. I do not give them a price at the listing presentation. I was like, I give them a range and then I go back.
For your class that you're gonna have to teach.
Well, no, yeah, you can do it differently.
Not till October, she'll have to, she might forget by
You do a
then.
two-step.
Yeah,
Yes,
He does a one-step.
so
I don't like one.
I'm like, you know what, all the information that you gave me and me viewing the house in person, I really need to go back through the comps that I pulled and reanalyze things. You know, I didn't realize they could put a cement floor in this 28 by 40 pole barn, you know, so that changes a lot, you know, like, but we are at this range here. And then I'm gonna follow up with what I call the next steps email, and I go room by room on what you need to do to get you to this price point. If you don't do anything, you go at this price point, so then that's when they do the choosing, and that's when I go through everything with them.
and I think people appreciate that, because instead of like, hey, I'm just gonna walk through and give you that price at the first time, they appreciate when I say, I'm gonna go back, do more digging, do more research, and actually give you a number or range where I think we could sit down and have a more educated conversation.
For sure.
about it. They
Like, cause
appreciate
I've
that.
never seen your house in person.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And
Or
I
it's
tell them
completely
to like,
different from when I sold it to
keep
you.
an ongoing list too of what you've done in the house, like just to have it on your phone, because you're gonna forget. And I always get the itemized list to attach to the listing too, to show the buyers the value of what they did, which I do, and then that's how I always make my appraisal price as well, to justify our asking price.
And there's always that client, was it
Or do you go back to second time?
Normally I just call them and we have a chat, 'cause we've already built the rapport, they already trust me, I already know that they're.
So do you have a sign that day?
So
and then
not usually, I usually, I have a contract with me, and I have put on there, they're like, well, we wanna work with you, so I'll put listing price to be determined, TBD. And then have them sign that, so at least we're under contract, but I won't give them our price then, unless it's like a friggin' 1,200 square foot ranch. No base that everyone knows, like in that little subdivision, like cookie cutter or something, then I know what it's going for, right? But in a house like this with any of my acreage, or anything like that, there's so many variables.
Yeah, and when that happens, like if I'm way out in left field, I'll tell them like, you know, I had a number, but it's wrong.
Oh, right.
Or here's what your house is worth today. Why don't I go back, because it sounds like you're willing to do a few things to the home. I
Right.
can tell you what it'll be worth if you do this and this, or this and that.
Yeah.
Also, so yeah, you can be
Yep.
flexible with that for sure.
Yeah, that's all my next steps, email, like, of course, I'll pull comps the closer we get
Yeah.
to their date, and yeah.
Doing the CMA though, you can have done the best CMA ever, but it's all about the presentation of it. If you cannot present it, it does not matter what it says.
Yeah, I'll usually come with comps, and like, I'll email them the CMA, and really when I do like RPR or cloud or anything like that, like, I'm going back and forth, like, I don't let them tell me what the price is, like, I rarely do adjustments, I just give a range on that, and that's what I email them, because they love to see the stats, right, especially if you gotta type it, they wanna see all the information, and I won't print that out, that's just too much, but, I'm going back and forth from searches, and especially if you're out in the boonies like that, and there's not many houses, I mean, normally you're doing a half mile range, but if you're like that, I mean, you're doing a whole school zone of Howell, and I mean, there's just so many different ways to work it and to manipulate the facts for you, you know?
Yeah.
Totally, like, I can manipulate all that.
So that's perfect. So I can't wait to come to your class, because there's so many ways. Julie, I'm sure you do it way different than I do it. Way
Not
different
a
than she
ton,
does it.
not a ton.
I've always liked the way you put it out in front of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that.
I wanna try that.
And leading them into where you visually lead them. into
Yeah.
where you
Does
want
most
them to be.
everybody bring a laptop or like do it online or paper?
I do, but I rarely get there.
Paper person.
I like paper
I don't
too.
like technology. I
I
don't
know.
like to use it.
I
so
never
I
came
get
around
paper
that.
person.
Yeah, I walk in with the binder that has everything in
Yeah.
there. And then
Flip through it,
I
yeah.
go through it.
I'll like get easily flustered if I'm like on my computer and I try to pull something up and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Work right,
Same.
and then it just kills my.
Yeah.
And what if you can't get a connection, or what if you have,
Hotspot on your phone.
I just don't, and not everybody.
Okay, I'm so glad I'm
wants
not a
to see it that
dinosaur.
way.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no.
That's why I used to move my room, I'm like, I need to go back and analyze.
I don't think I've ever left the house without giving them like a price range and
Yeah.
offering for them to sign it on the spot.
Yeah.
Like, I wanna walk out with a signature every single time. I'm never coming back. And like, I'm asking for the business when I'm there every time. I'm never leaving.
I don't
without
either.
asking them
I'm like,
every time.
I'll email,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll interact.
Yeah. I want this signed today. Like,
Yeah.
I wanna walk out of here with paper signed.
I did work with clients just recently that did not have an email, so, and it was in Monroe.
I love
So I
that.
figured I had to go, I already gave her.
I would
my-
refer
I
that
Actually,
business.
I didn't have seller's disclosures, I called my girlfriend that works at EXP in Monroe, and I was like, girl, you at the office, I need some seller's disclosures. She had her admin print them out for me, so I went to EXP and got my own, I got seller's disclosures that they printed out for me, I was like, I love you.
Sweet.
Now, that's an agent you wanna work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's, I love
Yeah.
getting new tips and tricks.
Always list at the price that you want. So you have never had anyone that's like, no, I want this price,
Oh,
even though
I
you're
had one
showing me this.
recently that it was a detached condo in Novi. I even contact, Will Banks, because I'm like, I'm way off on what they're saying. And, again, I go the same approach. Let's price it appropriately that we feel will appraise that. And then the market will speak to us if we're wrong. And then at that point, I can make people gap it because they're going above my suggested price. So here I'm at, like with, we're discussing at like a 650 price and my client wanted 800,000.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, and we were just going on and I said, I cannot promise that. I said, I know I cannot get this to a price at an 800,000 price point. And if it is at this and we're not getting opportunities, then at that point, we have to do an adjustment and it has to be a significant adjustment. And I let them price it at 780, got a cash offer, negotiate 800,000.
Yeah.
You go.
So again, would that ever happen?
No.
Like, that is
Right.
not a normal scenario,
It's
because
not,
I'm like, there's like,
but it,
I
but
need that
that
one next
story
week.
has happened in the
Yeah.
last 3 years.
Well, more
Right.
so in
How many
2023,
times?
2021,
right,
sure,
but
last
this was a
year,
listing
no.
that I think we put on, like, beginning of November. So again, we're going into
Yeah.
this stale market, and I'm like, you're nuts.
They're like,
But
"Oh, I
again,
told you
it's-
so."
It's a house, and that's the other thing, I'm like, I hope they realize, like, and they know, because
You came
I
with
shared them the
numbers.
data and
Yeah.
I negotiated up to the price they wanted, but it is an detached condos right
Well,
next
they're
to
rare.
Providence Hospital.
Yeah.
The people who who bought it were
Residents.
selling in Island Lake. So, I mean, in that community,
Yeah.
the money's there.
Right.
So it worked, but again, if
Perfect
it
timing.
didn't work, then I would have had to
Yeah,
I would have done what they asked me to do and price it high, did all of the things that need to be done, and then at that point, have the conversation, because it was already, I already set the expectations that this conversation most likely will have to happen to do a price adjustment, but I didn't have to. But again, I knew if that was not the scenario that played out, I definitely would be having the conversation.
I've had my people sign an addendum
Mhm.
saying, if we don't get an offer or the traction that we want in the first weekend, then you agree to adjust.
Yeah.
we'll do that,
Come
but
on.
2 weekends.
Because they
I would
forget.
never
When
not
you come
take the
back to
listing,
them, they're like, oh, I never said
ever.
that.
If they were stubborn about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I have them sign it right there.
in this market, we're gonna be wrong a lot.
Yeah,
Sure.
So take that 800, take the $150,000 overpriced listing, because she
You never
didn't
know what's
know,
gonna
how
happen.
could you ever know that?
Buyers are
Yeah.
gonna be
Nobody's
more
ever gonna
reserved.
and
know.
again, when I was meeting them,
Well, the
I did
data's
not
not
expect
showing
them to
that,
say
for
they
sure.
wanted $150,000 over what my, so then I have all my printed material and I'm like,
Wait,
we're,
huh?
we're a little off here, so.
Yeah, and take
You
it,
never know.
take it, and do
Yeah.
what Farron does and just.
And again, if you're honest
Hit
with
that
them,
neighborhood and tell them what you just did.
Oh, I did.
Oh, I did.
so,
Damn, that's impressive.
but again, that's not
Highest price
a
for
normal
first
scenario.
I told my people, I was like, I don't agree with this price, but I love setting records, so
Yeah.
I'll try it.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I'll try it,
If
sure.
market's going
Like
the
a
other
good week.
direction, be careful of doing
Yeah.
that, but it
Right.
hasn't.
Right now, go.
I'll give them a week, I'll give you a week.
Yeah.
You got a week,
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah.
a weekend.
10 days, 2
Yeah.
weekends.
2 weeks, yeah, 10 days, 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I won't do 10 days.
We gotta have it done after that second weekend so we can get the marketing material out for the follow.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I do this.
All right, so I appreciate you all being here. I hope today was helpful, and
Definitely.
please, I hope you guys participate in this weekly thing that we're doing. I'd love to learn from every single one of you.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
You were next.
You're next.
Answer for you. Just kidding. See,
You're in February, aren't you? I think you're in February.
Sounds pretty sure instead of
I
Christmas.
can't remember. I'll have to make sure to send my calendar so I can